This is Advanced Algebra, Chapter 11, Lesson 1, homework video. We're going to look at 4 problems. The first being number 20. It's supposed to find the next 4 terms in the arithmetic sequence. So if you can't look at the numbers and decide what the common difference is, what you are adding or subtracting to go from one number to the next, what you can do is you can pick a term that's not the first, say 16/5, and subtract the term before it. And I find my common difference is a -2/5. I am adding a -2/5 to go from one term to the next. So if I continue that process and I add a -2/5 onto the 14/5, I can tell my next term is going to be 12/5. I add another -2/5 on, and I get 10/5. Add another -2/5. I get 8/5. Add another -2/5 to get 6/5. Now, depending on your teacher, this one right there, they might want to say you should write as 2. Simplify the fraction. If I look at 28, they tell me the first term is 5/8. I'm supposed to find the first 5 terms. I already know a sub 1. I know the first term of my sequence. I need terms 2, 3, 4, and 5. My common difference is 3/8. That means I'm adding 3/8 onto the previous term. So a sub 1 is 5/8. A sub 2 would mean I add 3/8 onto 5/8. Hence 8/8. Or your teacher may say, simplify that to 1. My second term, or the third term in the sequence, the second one I have to figure out, I would add a 3/8 onto 1, or add 3/8 onto 8/8. And I get 11/8. To find my fourth term, I add 3/8 onto that, 14/8. Or if we simplify it, we get 7/4. And then my fifth and final term, I add 3/8 once again. I'll get 17/8. If we look at the next problem, number 40 says we're supposed to find the 43rd term for that particular sequence. Now, instead of repeatedly adding until I get to the 43rd term, which would take a long time, there's a shortcut. We have an equation that we can use. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. N is the number term that you're trying to find. D is the common difference. So if I take a look at number 40, the 43 is n. My sequence of numbers, I can tell as I go from 5 to 9, 9 to 13, 13 to 17, I'm repeatedly adding 4. So my common difference is a +4. I use the 43, I use the 4, and the equation to figure out the 43rd term very efficiently. My 43rd term, a sub 43, will be equal to the first term, which is 5, plus 43 is my n term. Oops, 43 minus 1 times my common difference of 4. 43 minus 1 is 42. I do my multiplying, and I get 168. I add 5. and I end up with the 43rd term being equal to 173. Number 42, story problem about Galileo figuring out the gravitational constant. And what it comes down to is he had this sequence of numbers, 16, 48, 80. How many feet did it fall in the 10th second? Very similar to number 40. I need to know really two things. I need to know my first term. I need to know the common difference. What is being added to go from one term to the next? So from 16 to 48, 48 to 80, what is that number that's being added to go from one term to the next? In that case, it's adding 32. And that 32 is my common difference. I use that exact same formula, but I'm using 16 and 32. So if I want to find my 10th term, that will be equal to a sub 1, which is 16, plus 10 minus 1 times 32. That's my common difference. And I go through, I could type that in my calculator all at once, but since I don't have one, I have to do it in my head piece by piece. 9 times 32 is 288. Add my 16. Then the 10th second of free fall, an object will fall 304 feet.